Hi everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Share and Inspire, focus on Jacques Rougerie Foundation, especially tackling junior architects projects. Uh, in this new episode, I'm with my friend and homie Martin Pretorius from South Africa. Yes, he is a graduated architect and business. I would say businessman in a shortcut. And he's the founder and principal designer of Workshop and Machine. So he's here today to inspire us and share his view of the sea level rise issue in the coastal areas of Africa. We're going to talk about a project called Floating Lotus, represented for the Jacques Rougerie competition, and hopefully you will find some ideas there and approaches there that may help you enter in the competition too. So, hi Martin.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine. So, how is it in South Africa today?
Winter started, so slowly getting colder, but it's nice. It's always nice here.
Yes, obviously, I don't. Maybe apart the desert areas, I don't know a place in Africa where it's not always enjoyable as far as climate. Because yes, it's cool to be live in tropical areas. That's really something you have to rejoice of. So, you have the floor, and yes, man, inspire us.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. Um, so yeah, the project that I'll be presenting today is the Floating Lotus. It's the competition entry for the Jacques Rougerie Foundation, specifically focusing on the African coastline. And what I first wanted to just discuss briefly is the region that the project is based, because it's in Keta in Ghana.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I took as an approach to Keta was to first list all the, say, like problems they experience in the area, specifically in the Keta region. Because one of the first areas I identified was coastal erosion, which contributes to quite a lot of other issues, including salination, which contaminates the farmlands. There's also rising temperatures trigger the migration of fish stock, and the country also experiences electricity demand which exceeds the supply. And I believe that is a problem in most African countries currently.
Yeah.
So the way I listed all the issues was to combat the coastal erosion. I looked at something that's floating instead of something that's fixed on land.
Mm-hmm.
And to combat the contamination of farmlands, I introduced, say, planters which can be used for farming. The migration of fish actually made the fishermen travel in much deeper than they usually do. Because, say, like 20 years back, they could fish off the shore, but now they actually have to go in a bit deeper with boats.
Mm-hmm.
So the floating pod, I combined it with the new fishing village that would be shipped out.
Yeah.
And then with that, it's also, I looked at a structure that can generate energy for the region itself. And I'll get to the, let's say, the technical part of the electricity in the next slide.
Yes.
So this is basically the construction of the structure itself. It's not necessarily constructed in the traditional architecture sense, I looked at the construction of boats, especially like wooden boats and wooden structures, and how they float, how they work. So in the first portion, you'll see the main structure. It gets added with the deck structure. The deck panels come in. Onto the deck panels, you start seeing the planters, which will be used for farming.
Yeah.
And then you also have a cabin floor in the middle, which will function as housing. But I'll get to the detailed cabin floor in a bit, which also houses the cabin facilities. And then the roof structure, you have a substructure which is filled in with solar panels and just a bit of skylight to bring in natural light into the structure. And the solar panels are one of the, let's say, methods of generating sustainable electricity for the region itself. So the second way of generating electricity is I looked at the current movement of the ocean. So as you can see on the illustration on the left, it shows, say, like the up and down movement of the currents. And what the structure then does, it moves out, floats into the ocean where it sits, and then you have an anchoring system that drops down. And as the current lifts the structure up and down with the anchor anchored to the bottom of the ocean, you start generating electricity. So you have a solar panel system and the anchoring system that generates electricity in tandem. So the electricity will be used on the structure itself, but the idea is to have cables lead out into the land where people can start using electricity. So the idea would be the more of these structures that you add on into the ocean, it might become like a small village, and the larger the village grows, the more electricity can be sent towards, so like individuals inland, which is struggling to get sustainable electricity or any electricity feed at all.
Yes.
And so looking at the deck structure, the bottom portion of the deck is where it will mainly be used for farming. So if you have farmland that's contaminated, best would be to move your farm out into the ocean. Although it's not as big as the farmlands itself, it's quite substantial and houses 24 planters, which can basically produce, I would say, enough to feed whoever stays on the structure itself, and there will definitely be almost 70% left, which can be transported inland again and sold there, just to start off let's say like a small business, start trading amongst the individuals. And then on your deck floor, I included 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms, and 4 bedrooms. So if there's people that permanently want to reside on these structures, they can do so. And the idea would be not to see the structure as whoever stays on the cabin floor, it's theirs alone. If they do stay there permanently, it's fine. But the structure and the farming itself is seen as more a community development where a group of people would be utilizing the growing facilities. And on the top, you'll see the roof with the solar panels. So there's quite an enormous, say, 24-meter round shape that would generally just be standing out in the sun the whole day, generating electricity, which will be sent inland. So
Yes.
on this section, I think it's easier to see here how the anchoring system generates electricity. So the structure itself will move up and down, just creating and generating electricity. Because none of the systems that's currently designed into the structure is anything, I would say, that's new to the world of technology or new to anyone in the industry. These are all fairly, I would say, simple standard structures that's been tried and tested over the years, and they
Yes.
are effective. It's just, I would say, compiled in a different system, which can be used, I would say, probably in any coastal region in Africa. Because even in South Africa, we are struggling with electricity supply, and this might be a viable option for people, especially staying closer to coastal region. It definitely won't be able to generate enough electricity to sustain the country itself, but it will definitely be able to help out certain communities, especially communities which are, I would say, a bit removed from the big city centers, which I feel can definitely add value to the region. And this is the 3D presentation of how it's going to look on the ground floor, basically. I have these oval walkways connecting all these structures to each other. They would basically act as housing platforms for small boats, for fishermen. So the idea would be for local farmers to use the structure, for fishermen to paddle out in the morning, hook your boat up to one of these, just stand around, fish, collect, do your daily work, and take all what you have caught the day back inland again and start selling it, or start giving it to family members, basically just to feed your immediate group of people around you and to generate a little bit of business in between. And the next view, this is the last slide of the presentation, and this basically just shows 4 of them put together and how the platforms connect each module to each other. And obviously these can be grown in size. We only have 4 on display here, but it can grow up to 100, 200, 300, any amount that is required. But the idea starts very small, with just quite a simple floating structure, but the possibilities of it is as great as the community starts growing it. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what I was trying to achieve with this competition. And I believe it can actually be practically implemented, but when it comes to projects like these, that's I would say quite visionary in its form, is quite a difficult thing to get off the ground, especially from a business side. But hopefully, as the idea is finished in its development now, hopefully I can take it further and I can help the initial community in Keta, which it was meant for. And if the idea grows from there, we would know. Maybe the idea gets adopted throughout Africa, which is actually the bigger aim of the project and the idea.
Obviously, idea can be developed all around Africa, and not even only Africa, all around coastal areas in the world, because it's such a passive solution that is linked to the surrounding with little to no impact environmentally. So yes, as you guys can see, Jacques Rougerie's foundation is promoting all type of ideas. Generally, people think that it's only the weird ones that are promoted, that are required to participate to the for the competition. But as you can see, with Pretorius approach, we first of all analyze the issues all around the coastal area, especially I think in Ghana there, to then come out with a solution that will help the fishermen, who are the main workers out there, who can even help tourism. Somebody can come and buy to sleep in that floating lotus, that will supply electricity in the most simplest way, and at the same time it's a starting point to the development of farming on the seas. So yes, I'm really inspired by this project, and I hope you guys too will be inspired. Thank you, Pretorius, for this project, and yes, we'll join hands to help it break ground in Africa, and I think it's amazing. What do you think?
Yeah, I would hope that something like this actually becomes implemented, or even just tested on a small scale, because especially if you look at solar, there's so much areas, especially in Africa and on the ocean, that's not necessarily being utilized, and we can really implement it on a small scale. But obviously, like, the small scale idea can grow and become something very big in the future, and also quite a viable solution, because it's so sustainable. The only thing that we need to do is to provide these panels, and they will be ready to be used by the people.
Yes. So thank you for your time, and as you can see, I've wore your South African colors. So hopefully your football team will come back on track and be able to provide us the same pleasure they did years ago. And yes,
I believe all South Africans hope exactly the same.
hopefully. Yes, I really appreciate the plurality of ethnical colors there in South Africa. So it's just like I'm like doing a collection of those different type of, how do they call this, of motifs, to be able to have in my office a wall with all those different types of samples of colors and of designs that I generally use in clothing and in painting local housing there in all of Africa. So
Yeah.
yes, have a nice afternoon, and let's keep on.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to present the work. Hopefully there's more ideas coming from your audience that they can present.
Yes, of course. They're eager to know more.